Hello everybody, welcome back to another video. Today I'm going to show you guys how to do a 90-degree square to square elbow offset. So like so. We'll be working with a 3x3 square, and then we're going to raise it up to another 3x3 square, and we're going to give it a 2.5 inch throat. So like so. And we're going to give it an offset, so right around there, from here to here, 2 inches. And by the time we get done, we'll be producing these templates to make this. Alright, let's get to it. Okay, so let's go ahead and start off by making our elbow at 90 degree. So we're going to go ahead and make a 90 degree 5.5 inch by 5.5 inch. So we know that our throat is 2.5 inches, which is going to be here, and we're going to make our square at 3 inches. So 1, 2, 3. So it'll be 5.5. So 5.5 by 5.5. Okay, now let's go ahead and find our throat at 2.5 inches. So your halfway points there, so half plus 1, 2. And then our square, our 3x3 square is 3, so 1, 2, 3. We're going to put our sharp point on your 90 degree where your vertical and horizontal lines meet. Open up your pencil to the 2.5 inch throat, and we're going to establish our throat like so. Leave it in the same spot and then open it up to the 3 inch, so right around there, and make your heel. Okay, so now let's go ahead and cut this in half, because what we're going to be doing is trying to establish these bend points. So we're going to go from A to C, then from C to D. So let's go ahead and get this midpoint cut in half. So we're going to get our compass, put it here, and I'm just going to do a random arc somewhere in the middle, like so. Leave it in the same position, put it there now. Swing it over and crisscross the previous arc. And now we're going to get a ruler and line this point to that center right there. And do a mark there and there. Okay. So what we've established now is where we're going to be making our creases or bend points, from this point to that point, and then from that point to this point here. So just so that it kind of makes sense, I'm just going to go ahead and make some lines, some broken lines, so that we know what it's meant. And then from there to here. Okay, so now that we have that, now let's go ahead and label these points, these important points, some letters. So you're going to label this as A, B, C, D, E, and then F. Now if you notice, I have these in order, and the reason being is because that is the order that we're going to take to try to identify every single point of our offset elbow for 90 degree. So if you notice, we're going to start from A to B, then from B we're going to go ahead and look for C, and then from C we're going to go and look for D, from D we're going to go to E, and then from E you're going to go to F. So that is the path that we're going to be taking to identify every single point. Okay, now next step. Now what I want to do is I'm going to establish some steps, and these steps are going to help us make it easy to find every single point of our layout here so that we don't get mixed up. So there are 7 steps that I take, and that's 1 through 5 are basically the steps to identify every single point, and then steps 6 and 7 are just basically bisecting steps so that we can establish both the throat and the heel. So this is how this works. Step 1 is A and B. So A and B is true. It'll have an underline underneath those 2 letters, and that's basically just telling us that there's really no need to triangulate A and B because it's just a true starting point of 3 inch. So when we start making our pattern on our work area here, we're going to establish our starting points A and B, which is just going to be 3 inches, like so. 3 inches. So step 1 is AB is true length. Okay, step 2. Step 2 is going to be AC and BC, and that'll get you C. So that's basically telling us, so we're going to have to bisect AC and BC to find point C. So now we're here. Now we're going to go from C to D, and that's step 3. Step 3 is AD and CD will find D. So that'll be here. After that, that'll be step 4, and that's going towards E. Step 4 is saying DE is just a true length, which is again just like A and B. It's just going to be a true length of 3 inch, and then you're going to triangulate C and E so that you can find E. And then step 5 is AF and DF. AF is saying, well, let's go ahead and triangulate AF and then DF so that we can find point F, and that'll be here. And that's pretty much it. After that, step 6 and 7 is bisecting. So that's telling us that we're going to be bisecting to get our throat curvature here. We're going to be bisecting A, F, and D to get our pivot point for our compass. And the same thing will apply to get our heel. On this side here, we're going to bisect B, C, and E to get our pivot point and establish our heel. Okay, so now we got that out of the way. We'll come back to that later because we're going to be using those steps to put onto what I call a multi-true length triangle box, which is what we're going to be doing right now. Okay, so let's go ahead and first start off by getting the templates for the heel and the throat. So we're going to be doing the pi formula. So we're going to take the biggest number first, which is 5.5 inches. So we have 2.5 inches here plus 3 inch make 5.5. So we're going to go 5.5 and if you double that times 2 equals 11 inch. So you can imagine an 11 inch circle. Now we're going to do the pi formula. So that'll be times 3.1416 equals 34 9/16. So what that's saying that we have a full circle diameter of 34 9/16 out of 11 inch. But since we're only going to want a quarter of that circle, we're going to divide that by 4 equals 8 5/8. So that's telling us that we need a horizontal line of 8 5/8, and that's basically telling us that from this point all the way around to here has a stretch length of 8 5/8. So let's go ahead and do that right here on the top. Okay, so I'm going to go ahead and just line this up. Okay, so I'm going to put it right around here. So we're going to make a horizontal line of 8 5/8. I'm going to go a little bit past that. I'll get that exact measurement later. And then as far as our height goes, Well, that's simple too. So we know that we're going to start off at 3 inches. From here to here is 3 inches. And then from the, if you can imagine this baseline, we're going to lift this up 2 inches. And then once we lift it up at 2 inches, we're going to start again from here, from 2 inch up, another 3 inches. So that'll be 2 inches plus 3 make 5. So that'll be a total of 5 inches in height. So now let's go ahead and make a 5-inch height. Okay. Alright, so let's go ahead and find our 8 5/8. So let's go ahead and measure that. So it'll be 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. And 5/8 is right here. Okay? And then as far as our 8 inch, or I'm sorry, the height of 5 inches, just going to go ahead and use our compass and open it up to the 5-inch mark. So 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. So right around there. I'm going to lock it in place like so. I'm going to put my sharp point here where the vertical and horizontal lines meet. Strike an arc there. Put it here now. And do an arc like so. I'm going to leave it in the same spot. I'm going to open it up to our length of 8 5/8. I'm going to lock it in place like so. As you can see. Put my sharp point now here. Now if you guys can see that. And strike an arc there. And that's the other end corner of our box. Or template box, if you want to call it that. Alright, cool. So we got that. So let's go ahead and start off by establishing our 3-inch height, which is going to be right here. So get your ruler and go 1, 2, 3. Okay, and then we said we're going to also end it here on this end, and we're going to go finish at 3 inches on the top. So we're going to lift this side, this imaginary baseline, through 2 inches up. So as you can see, we can just take our ruler, 1, 2, and that should be 3 inches. So there's 3 inches right there, and there's 3 inches like so. Pretty simple, right? Okay, now what you do is get your ruler and drop a line from this point down here. Line that up. Okay, now we're going to do the same thing from this point to that point there. Alright, cool. Alright, so if everything was done correctly, we made this. This hopefully will match. And there it is. And so that is now your heel, which is this portion right here. And there you go. It should match pretty close. So as you can see, pretty close, right? Even. Okay, now let's go ahead and get our throat. So back to the pi formula. So we know that this is a 2.5-inch throat. So you can go 2.5 inches, and if you times that by 2 times 2 equals 5 inches. So you can imagine a 5-inch diameter circle. But we're going to do the pi formula off of the 5-inch. So times 3.1416 equals 15 11/16. So that 5-inch has a stretch diameter of 15 11/16. But since we only want a quarter of that, which is going to be this portion here, we're going to divide that by 4. So divided by 4 equals 3 and 15/16. So what that's telling us is that we have a stretch length from this point all the way up to this point here at 3 and 15/16. So that's what you're going to be putting right here, horizontal line mark of 3 and 15/16. So 1, 2, 3 and 15/16. Do the same thing here. 1, 2, 3 and 15/16 there. Okay. Let's go ahead and get a vertical line established. Boom, like so. Okay. And same thing, we're going to give it a 2-inch offset on our 90° square to square elbow. So from here, go 2 inches up. So 1, 2. And now you can put this point to that end there. Like so. Do the same thing from here to here now, because that's your 3-inch, and it's going to go to another 3-inch there. Boom, boom. Like so, and there it is. There you go. So if everything was done correctly, this template should match this, hopefully. And there it is. And that is our throat. So this should fit here. Like so. Pretty close, right? Pretty cool. Okay. So now that we have our templates for both the heel and your throat, now we're going to go ahead and concentrate on both of the cheeks, the top and the bottom. Now I do want to mention and say that since we're working on an even number of dimensions, meaning we're making this a 3x3 and then ending it at 3x3, it should be the same both for the top and bottom cheek. Things start to go different when you give it different dimensions, meaning say if this was a 3x3 compared to like say a 5x6, then depending on, you know, not only that, but depending on your offset, the top cheek will be different from the bottom cheek. But for starters, right now what I want to do is I'm going to make a couple more videos of these standard steps so that it becomes kind of ingrained in our heads that these are the simple steps that you can take and that can be applied for all dimensions with a slight little tweak. But for now, I just want to make it simple so that everybody has an idea of, you know, how I do these things and the steps that I take, especially following the steps 1 through 7, which will make things a lot easier to understand. Okay, so let's keep going. So here's what we're going to do. I mentioned a while back that I'm going to use our template square here as a true length triangle, or what I call a multi-true length triangle. And so what I say, the reason I say multi is because we're going to be establishing multiple baselines. As you can understand that or know that a true length triangle consists of a vertical and horizontal line. But we're going to go ahead and make a couple of more horizontal lines to make the multi-true length triangle within this box here. So this is how this works. So we already know that the only thing that really matters as far as height goes is from this starting point, which is here on A, to the end point of where D is at, which is right here. So all that really matters is from this point here up. So if you can imagine, there's a imaginary line right here. That's what this line represents. All you're going to really care about is from this point up. So let's go ahead and start off by making a baseline, just so that we can kind of get things making sense on our multi-true length triangle box. So we're going to just copy this, the height, and that should be 2 inches. So 1, 2. Okay, we're going to do the same thing here, 2 inches. So 1, 2. Okay, let's go ahead and get a line, our baseline. Okay, so here's what we got. This point here, if you look at it at this elevation view, which is right here, as you can see, this point is shared by both point A and B. A and B. So you're going to write here A and B. Okay? And then this point here, which is the highest peak, which would end up being here or here, which is this point here, this height is shared by both points D and E. So right here, you're going to go ahead and write D and E. Okay, so that's what we have. We have A and B, which is right here, A and B, A and B, and then it goes up 2 inches, and this will be points D and E. So D and E. Okay, all right. So the last thing is, we also know that we have a midpoint, which is right here, and that these 2 points are shared by both C and F. So if you can see right here, C and F are shared at the same height, as you can see. So it doesn't go all the way up here, but rather right here. So what we need to do is, since we cut this in half, we're also going to go ahead and cut this in half as well to find points F and C. So we know that that's 2 inches. We're just going to go ahead and divide that by 2. And we're going to put 1 inch mark right there. Do the same thing here. And put that mark there. Okay, now let's go ahead and make our baseline to make our other true length triangle. Alright, cool. Easy, right? Alright, so now this point here is going to be representing levels F and C. So I'm going to go ahead and write C and F, and that's what this is. Okay, so that is why I call it, I guess, multi-true length triangle. You're going to be using these baselines to try to put your triangulation information from here onto your true length triangles. Okay, so now that you have that, now we can go ahead and go off of our steps 1 through 7, but mainly steps 1 through 5. And again, everybody kind of does it different. They go off of numbers. I'm going off of letters and height. So these steps will, again, make it easy to just follow, and it'll make sense as we go along. And also just take in mind that you're just going to go ahead and follow these letters per order. So A, B, C, D, E, and then F. So kind of like a figure 8. Okay, so let's start off with step 1. Step 1, there's really no need to do that. There's no triangulation of step 1, which is A and B, because it's just a true length of 3 inches. So step 1 is going to be your starting point, and we're going to make our template right here. So step 1 is just 3 inches. So you're going to make a 3-inch line. So boom, boom, right here. So that's step 1. Okay, step 2. Step 2 is saying triangulate AC and BC to find C. So here's how you do that. So step 1, go find ace A to C. I'm going to lock it in place like so. Okay, now put your sharp point on your compass on your elevation letter A, like so, and then you're going to strike an arc, and you're going to call that AC. Okay, and then step 2 is still saying triangulate BC. So now you're going to go from B to C. So I'm going to put my sharp point on C, go to B, or either or, B to C. I'm going to lock it in place like so. Now I'm going to put my sharp point still on elevation A, or which is B, A and B. Put it right there, and then go over, and then strike an arc. And I'm going to call this B and C. Okay, now you might have that question or wondering, why can't I put it here or here? For starters, you can, in a ways, you actually, theoretically, you can put it on this elevation letter right here, because you're going off of what the steps are telling you. So in this case, A and C, these two are going to be involved to try to find that triangulation. But like I said, for starters, for now, because this is new for me to try to explain or show it on the video, just go off of the steps, go off of the first letter. So in this case it's A, so you're going to put it here and then just strike an arc. And then the same thing with BC, since it's on elevation B, go ahead and put your sharp point there and then strike the arc. Later in the future, as you start doing this, you'll see that you can actually go in reverse and put these two arcs on this elevation letter, because that's where C is at. It'll make sense as we go along. Okay, so let's keep going. So step 3. Step 3 is telling us triangulate AD and CD to find D. Okay, so step 3, AD. So A to D. Like so. Put sharp point now on A. And then strike an arc. You're going to call this AD. Okay? And then step 3 is also telling us triangulate CD. So there's C and D. Lock it in place like so. And now we're going to go CD. So here's elevation letter C. Okay, I'm going to strike an arc. And I'm going to call this CD. Alright, cool. Next step. Step 4. Now we're here. Now we're going to try to look for E. Step 4 is telling us DE is your true length, and then triangulate CE. So step 4, DE, you really don't need to do anything. That's also a true length line, the same as A and B. So there's really no need to do D and E. You can just leave it like that. And then, but you can triangulate C and E. So get the distance from C to E. Lock it in place like so. C and E. Okay, put your sharp point now on C, because it starts with C. And you're going to swing it over. You're going to strike an arc. You're going to call this C to E. Okay, and then step 5. Now we're done with E. Now let's look for F. So step 5 is telling us triangulate AF and DF so that you can find F. So that's pretty simple. So get your distance from A to F. Now in most cases, if you divide this nice and even, they should be the same. A to F to F to D. But it's always good to kind of do them separate, just in case. So there's the distance from A to F. So put your sharp point here on A. And then strike an arc. And we're going to call this A to F. And then step 5 is telling us triangulate DF. So let's see if DF are matched. They do, kind of. So we can maybe open it up a little bit more. And there it is. I'm going to lock it in place. I'm going to put my sharp point on D, because it's DF. It starts with D. And I'm going to strike an arc. And that is DF. Now again, if you divide this nice and even, these 2 points should be the same. But if in case you find yourself that it's not divided evenly, it's still always good to do them separate and put them here, just in case there's some sort of deviation. So it's just good practice. Okay, so that's pretty much it. We're done transferring our triangulation from our layout here over to our multi-trilling triangle for a 90-degree square-to-square elbow with offset. Okay, so now let's go have some fun and start making our cheek. So let's go ahead and start with step 1. If you notice, step 1 says AB is true. Alright, sorry guys, my camera seemed to cut off, but I believe I was saying something about now that we have all of our information here, we can go ahead and start by getting our cheeks made, or cheek made. So as you can see, I've already started off because didn't notice where my camera cut off. So basically what this means is step 1 is saying AB is true. So all we have to do is establish a 3-inch line. So as you can see, so all I did was make a 3-inch line like so, and went like so, and then make our points 3 inches. So 1, 2, 3, and put A and B. So the same thing here. So as you can see, step 1 is 3-inch, A and B, A and B. Alright, now that we got step 1 done, step 2 is saying get your information for AC and BC to get C. So we're going to go ahead and go over to our multi-true length triangle box, and we're going to do step 2, which is AC. So here's elevation A to C. AC is right there. Put sharp point on AC arc, and you're going to open up to elevation C, which is our midpoint, and we're going to lock it in place like so. And you're going to put your sharp point on A, and then AAC, C is right here, so it's going to be somewhere around here. So we're going to go ahead and do a random arc like so. Okay, and then a BC, so you're going to go B, elevation B, C, here's BC. So put your sharp point on BC, and then open up to your elevation letter C. You're going to lock it in place like so, as you can see. Okay, sharp point on B, and you're going to crisscross the previous arc. Boom. And now you found C. So as you can see, if you follow these steps, you'll find every single point. So now we found A, B, we're here, C. Now we're going to go and try to find D. So that's where step 3 is. Step 3 is telling us get AD and CD so you can find D. So where's AD? Here's AD. And then open it up to D, elevation letter D. And we're going to lock it in place like so, as you can see. Put sharp point on A, and you know D is going to be somewhere around here, so go ahead and strike a random arc like so, and then find CD. So C, there's CD right there. Put sharp point on arc CD, and then open up to letter D elevation, and we're going to lock it in place like so. Okay, put your sharp point now on C, and strike an arc, crisscross the previous arc, and now you found D. Pretty simple, right? So we went from C to D. Now we're going to go E. So step 4 is telling us DE is a true length. So it's the same thing like A and B. We're just going to go ahead and get the length from D and E. So we're just going to go ahead and do this. And that should be 3 inches, like so. Put your sharp point on D, and strike a random arc. Okay, as you can see, that should be 3 inches, so 3 and 3. Okay, and then get your information on your multi-true length triangle box, CE. So CE is right here. Put your sharp point on CE arc, and then open it up to your elevation letter E. We're going to lock it in place like so. And we're going to put a sharp point on C. And strike the previous arcs like so. And now you found E. Pretty simple. So there's steps 1 through 5. Now you found all your points, A, B, C, D, E. Actually, no, we need F now. So I was wrong there. So step 5 is AF and DF will get you point F. So go to AF. So here's AF. Open it up to the elevation letter F on your multi-tooling triangle box, like so. Okay, go AF. So F is going to be somewhere around here. So we're going to strike a random mark, like so. And then DF is right here. So it should be the same, which mine isn't. So I'm going to go and close it off a little bit more. So that just goes to show that sometimes it's not even. And there's DF. So I'm going to put my sharp point on D, which is here, and crisscross the previous arc. And now we found F. Okay, there we go. So now we found all the points. So now the easy part 2 is bisecting the letters so that we can establish both the throat and the heel wrapper. So step 6 is saying bisect A, F, and D to get your throat. So here's what you're going to do. You're going to get your compass. You're going to put it on D or either or. And you're going to open it up a little bit past the halfway point towards the intended letter that you're reaching. And you're going to do some random marks like so. Keep in the same position and put it right here. And then crisscross the previous arcs like this and like so. Keep it in the same spot and do some arcs like that. Keep in the same position, put it on A, and then crisscross the previous arcs like so. Hopefully my arms are not in the way of the camera, and there you go. Okay, now what you're going to do is line up these 2 points with your ruler and throw a line like so. Do the same thing from here to here. Line it up with your ruler and throw a line like so. So now you've created a pivot point right there, and that is your pivot point to put your sharp point of your compass right there, and then open up your pencil point on either letter, on either A, F, or D, and all you're going to do is just kind of like just check it to see if it matches, and they should in most cases, but if not, you can make adjustments, and then just make your throat. There you go. Okay, now let's go ahead and make our heel wrapper. So you're going to do the same steps. In some cases, they should all use the same pivot point. But again, in my experience, I always tend to do them separate just in case there's some sort of deviation or, you know, lines that I did wrong. So go ahead and do the same steps. Bisect B, C, and E. Okay, so we're going to do the same thing. Get your compass, put your sharp point on E, C, or B, and you're going to reach a little bit past the halfway point of the intended letter. So I'm going to go ahead and strike an arc like so. Keep in the same position, put it on C, and then crisscross the previous arc, which I overdid it. So I'm going to go back on E. And I don't know if you guys can see, but there's a line right there. And do the same thing here. Do a line like so, put it on B, and crisscross, which I overdid it. I missed it, so I need to go back and finish it off. So as you can see, I think all I should have done is maybe close this a little bit more so that it would avoid these other arcs. Alright, so I don't know if you guys can see through that mess. You're going to put these 2 sharp points together, line them up with your ruler. and you're going to make your line. It looks like it's pretty even. Do the same thing from this point to this point here. And do a line. Then it's a little off, but you know, it looks like it's using the same pivot point. But like I said, it's always good practice to do them separate, just in case. Alright, and that's pretty much it. Now we're going to go and put our sharp point on our pivot point. And then open it up to the letters on the outer heel side, and they match pretty close, and make our heel. Now we can go and finish this off, and there you go. Now if everything was done correctly, hopefully this pattern matches this. So there it is, pretty close, right? And that goes here. So hopefully you guys got value out of this, and if you guys know of a friend or co-worker that can benefit from it, go ahead and share this video with them, and let's get more people start learning how to do these. On that, I will see you guys in the next video. Peace.